entertainment industry, release windows are extremely important. You generally don't want to put something out at the same time as another thing unless you know it can win. Occasionally, we've seen rivalries pop up when there are similar things releasing around the same time, like Ants in a Bug's Life, Infamous and Prototype, PUBG and Fortnite, and Breath of the Wild and Horizon Zero Dawn.
My eyes are up here.
I'm looking at your spear.
When this happens, usually those two will butt heads for a while, until one sticks around in people's minds, while the other one just has a sense of, oh yeah, that was a thing. But sometimes, release windows can cause a piece of media to become overshadowed in a cloud of obscurity. Rest in peace, Battleborn. We do not miss you. No matter how good something is, if it gets overshadowed by something with broad appeal, there's not much that can be done to save it. And unfortunately for the series I want to highlight today, this is the second time it happened.
If I had a nickel for every time
this series was overshadowed by another release,
I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right?
We're talking about Tron again. If you haven't watched my previous video, you don't have to. You can if you want, but it was basically me learning how to script a video, and I might remake it in a few years because holy crap. Tron released in 1982, and it was something so new and different to anything else on the market that it was a near guaranteed success if it didn't release about a month away from the highest grossing film ever at the point of its release, E.T. the Extraterrestrial. May of 2012 was the debut of an animated spin-off of the Tron franchise titled Tron Uprising that was meant to be a bridging story between the original Tron movie from 1982 and the new direction the series took with 2010's Tron Legacy. And this show is phenomenal. It has a fantastic voice cast, really cool action scenes, a lot of fan service for both fans of the original Tron and Legacy while keeping it accessible to newcomers, and the animation. Just look at this show! Oh, it's so pretty! But unfortunately, history just had to repeat itself, and it just so happened to debut less than a month away from one of Disney's most successful animated series of all time, Gravity Falls. A series about kids finding strange creepers. A series about kids finding strange creatures and trying to hide it from the adult figures in their lives.
Name's Bill, but you can call me your new lord and master for all of eternity!
The first season had each of its episodes released because they were already made, but once they were out, that was it, with no indication of a season 2 despite leaving off on a cliffhanger, which causes some really messed up implications, but I'll get into that in a bit.
This is a box. What's inside the box? That's what's important.
It's my dick in a box!
And don't get me wrong, I love Gravity Falls, but I didn't even know this show existed for 9-ish years, and when I did find out about it, I just assumed it was some cheap piece of crap because nobody ever talks about this show. And I'm tired of nobody giving this show the proper love it deserves, so I'm gonna change that. This is my deep dive into Tron Uprising. Now, I can't place all of the blame on Gravity Falls. While Gravity Falls had a part in it on the business end as it massively outperformed Tron Uprising and caused Disney to start making more of its shows in the future mimic the style of Gravity Falls, there were other factors impacting the success of Tron Uprising. The biggest factor, in my opinion, is because it played exclusively on Disney XD. Disney XD was an attempt by Disney to have another television channel in conjunction with the primary Disney channel that was aimed at a slightly older audience of late preteens and early teens. And while Disney XD was the host to a few new shows, none of them had anywhere near as much chance to succeed as shows that aired on the primary Disney channel. And no, I'm not counting Phineas and Ferb as a Disney XD show. It started as a Disney Channel show and later moved to Disney XD, but still had a presence on the main Disney Channel.
Ferb, I know what we're gonna do today.
But the difference in demographic wasn't the main issue holding back shows on the network. It's mainly because Disney XD was a premium television channel that you had to pay extra for on top of your cable bill. Most parents, including my own, just went, well, my kids are already good with Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, and Cartoon Network. There's no real reason to pay extra for more of what's already there. So Uprising just sat there on a channel that, while popular, didn't have the widespread audience that the show needed in order to grow. Disney did try rerunning the show multiple times on Disney XD over the years, but they never moved it to the primary Disney Channel. Another issue that contributed to the show's lack of success was the fact that the best episodes of the show are extremely backloaded. Not to say the first half of the show is bad, it's just that they're definitely the weaker episodes of the lot. The first half of the show is spent building a formula so that it can break that formula in the second half of the show, but unfortunately, that formula for the first half can be a bit overly repetitive and boring.
I think we all know where this is going.
The viewing figures don't lie. They got so low to the point that they just stopped publicly reporting them. So I've talked about the things that contributed to its failure, but what exactly is this series about? The show takes place inside of a computer system, where each and every program you run on your computer is represented by a person in this digital world. But after Kevin Flynn, the protagonist from the first Tron movie, creates a digital clone of himself named Clue, Clue overpowers Flynn and becomes an authoritarian dictator and starts to oppress the entire system in the name of perfection.
Perfection has no age.
Now, this is primarily the plot to Tron Legacy, which I'm not really going to go too deep into since I plan on eventually making a dedicated video talking about it, but I don't really like this plot too much, and I'll get into why in more detail when I do make that video, but because this show released after Legacy and is building upon it, I'm not going to criticize this show for issues I have with Legacy, especially since this is mostly just background for the world that the show takes place in. The story of Uprising follows a group of characters living in Argon City, which I assume is supposed to be a joke on the fact that argon can be used like neon to make colored lights, and the color it makes fits the bright blue vibe the city has at the start of the show. Clue's leadership is just starting to take hold and oppress the occupants of the city, and the heroics of Kevin Flynn and Tron feel less like actual history and more like legend.
If Tron were here...
You mean if Tron were alive?
Even though there are programs that have been around long enough to be part of the original system. I like to think of these guys as the underlying code for Windows made by AT&T that was originally meant to be temporary, but became too integrated into the system to ever switch it out to be better.
I'm not letting you kill for revenge.
As Clue's dictatorship expands into Argon City, one mechanic named Beck, no please I don't want to go back,
make the bad guys cry like an anime fan on prom night,
watches his friend die after talking back to some of Clue's guards.
You don't scare us. Bodhi!
Yeah, because the characters aren't technically humans, and any deaths are basically getting hit by the pixelizer from the Ratchet & Clank reboot,
Coming by a pixelizer.
This show can get dark. On-screen deaths, no implications, flat out ending another life on screen. Beck is encouraged to fight back after watching his friend die and seeing everyone else just stand by. And over the course of the series, jumpstarts an uprising by donning the symbol of Tron, pretending to be him to inspire people to rise up against Clue, and gains the nickname, the
Renegade.
Renegade?
Renegade.
Renegade.
Renegade. Renegade.
But after he's captured and interrogated by this one lone goon, Beck showcases his resolve and willingness to fight for the city and inspire hope in the other programs. And then it's revealed that this guy is actually the original Tron.
I'm not dead.
This reveal is really obvious before it happens if you've watched the original movie, because Bruce Boxleitner's voice is extremely distinct, but it's still a really cool moment regardless. Also, props to Bruce Boxleitner. Tron has been a franchise for over 40 years now, and not once has he had a voice double take his place. Hats off to this man.
This is a restricted area. You just can't come barging in here.
Dad?
Get your hands off me.
Dad, can you hear me?
Beck almost instantly reverts from absolute badass ready to take on the world to someone who starts to doubt himself. And in a lot of cases, I would see this as a major issue, but in this case, he's going from fighting for his best friend in a fit of pure rage, with some vague hope of rallying others on a small scale, to seeing the hero he took inspiration from face to face. And it's daunting to have all this faith and respect almost thrust upon him after doing a good job one time. He even tries to pass off the responsibility onto someone else he meets who's fully motivated to join the Renegade.
You weren't exactly programmed for fighting, were you?
No. Aerodynamics.
Do a barrel roll! But over the course of the series, Beck learns the responsibility and importance of the role he's been given, and he grows his skills through consistent training, while donning a full suit to match the color of Tron's suit from the original movie.
Remember, Tron lives.
If you haven't picked up on the voice, that's Elijah Wood as Beck, most known for that series I refused to watch, because even though I know I actively screwed myself over by watching this one first, I still don't care enough to go back. Come to think of it, this is actually the second time that I know of where Elijah Wood plays a computer program. Hopefully he survives longer than he did last time. Wait a second, red versus blue exists. Elijah Wood is known for fantasy stuff, and yet he still keeps getting typecast as computer programs.
It is important to have ambition.
Now, why isn't Tron out there kicking ass alongside Beck? Well, that scar on his neck isn't just for show. Tron is dying after he was tortured by one of the main villains, and he has to constantly stay inside this healing pod or else the injuries are going to spread and eventually kill him. And while he technically can be repaired, nobody's going to be willing to harbor the biggest fugitive in the system.
They're in the air!
My legal team advised me not to finish this joke. I'm not gonna lie, Tron is a bit of an asshole in this show, but it kinda works. He's at the tail end of his life that won't last much longer, while knowing that his close friend is missing somewhere in the system and is probably dead. He sees getting betrayed by Clue as his biggest failure, and sees Beck as his opportunity to rectify that mistake. He's a cool, badass mentor, and a champion of justice that, until his hand was forced, tried to solve problems in a diplomatic way rather than through violence. It's honestly a great way to give him personality, because while I love the original movie, Tron's personality was basically, I am computer program beep boop that is also somehow Jesus and Alan Bradley is my god. One cool bit of world building I really appreciate is the fact that the games in both the original Tron and Legacy are seen as punishment, a way to stylishly execute misbehaving programs and scare the ones that aren't taking part into falling in line. But in this show, the games are treated as just that, games. The programs actually have leisure time and take part in non-lethal forms of the games. And it makes the villains in this series even more evil, because they're not only torturing and killing programs, but they're also taking something that the programs do for fun and turning it into something deadly that they want to avoid. It's like if Major League Baseball had the losing team all line up to get shot in the back of the head after the game. Be honest, would you really want to have your son sign up for a non-lethal Little League if that was happening? And I know I already mentioned it, but I legitimately just need to gush about this animation style. The show is 3D animated, but it deploys a really heavy cel-shaded look to almost look like a 2D animated show at points, but it still takes advantage of what 3D animation does well and can get really dynamic action shots. Also, the show runs at a lower frame rate to give it a more distinctive look. And while a lot of things will do that nowadays, like Spider-Verse or Guilty Gear, it was a lot rarer when this show came out. It can look a bit janky here and there, but overall it really lends itself well to the character designs. And something that I really like is that it combines elements from the original Tron into the art style of Legacy. I didn't notice it originally because the show was really colorful and my brain kinda played a few tricks on me, but all of the faces are in grayscale. And because of this, I can shift the colors completely, and while it looks different, it doesn't look wrong.
Oh shit, he's got RGBs, let's get the fuck out.
I don't think there's another show out there where you can do that and have it still look completely natural. The original Tron was filmed in black and white and had the film hand painted to make the suits glow in the way they did. But in Legacy, they used CGI to make the suits glow and filmed the movie completely in color. So the team behind Uprising decided on a style that takes the look and feel of Legacy, but the filming techniques of the original Tron, and it looks fantastic.
Alright, Sonic, let's touch dicks.
The programs that Beck and Tron are primarily going up against in this show is a trio of Clue's underlings named Tessler, Paige, and Pavel. I love these guys. Despite the fact that they're all on the same side, they each have their own unique goals and personalities that constantly clash, and you find yourself genuinely rooting for them in some cases. Tessler is probably the weakest of the trio, as he's a bit closer to your generic mustache-twirling bad guy. He's quick to go into plans without fully thinking them through first. One of my favorite episodes is one where he sets up a bounty for the capture of the Renegade, and as soon as there's a prize on offer, everyone in the system starts reporting everyone else like it's a goddamn Among Us lobby filled with 12-year-olds in the hope that they randomly reported the correct person and can claim the prize.
In a few cycles, we will be rounding up volunteers until this imposter is apprehended.
And then when they end up arresting the wrong person, he sets up a public execution in an animated Disney show for kids. I'm innocent! Tessler does have some deeper qualities to him that are showcased later in the series, as he begins to feel his grip on the city slip away from him and actually grow to fear the Renegade despite all his power and control over the city. But despite that, he's still an intensely threatening and absolutely brutal villain.
I accept your resignation.
Resignation accepted. End of story.
Also, I respect the fact that despite being the head honcho, he's not just gonna rely on his underlings to get shit done, and he will go out and do things himself. Paige is probably the deepest character in the show. She's one of Teslar's assistants, and despite being loyal to Teslar from her immense, although probably misplaced, respect for him, she's not exactly loyal to Clue as a dictator. She just believes in the cause. She was once a worker in a medical center helping to treat injured programs and restore their corrupted code. But after she has a chance encounter with an uncanny as hell CG Korra, but to be fair, in Tron Legacy, her facial expressions can be a bit yikes. Paige is led to believe that her friends were killed by Korra and her friend Ada, even though they were annihilated by Teslar, and Teslar was framing Korra and Ada for being ISOs.
But we helped you!
Please.
I'm not gonna go too deep into the ISOs. They're the primary plot of Tron Legacy, but for this show, the ISOs are more just world building, or technically world destroying, as the ISOs are basically undergoing a holocaust.
They're in the
medical center.
That time my legal team cleared me for the joke. It's funny how things work out sometimes. Paige genuinely believes that she was saved by Teslar, and joins Clue's cause to help cleanse the system of the ISOs.
Attention programs.
Sorry, Paige. Korra, why? Now she'll never trust ISOs.
Yeah, but at least she'll be alive.
A few moments later.
How soon can I start?
She absolutely hates the Renegade, and will legitimately stop at nothing to see him go down. But after bumping into Beck while he's not dressed as the Renegade, this man puts the moves on her, and we get to see a much softer side of her personality. And it leads to Beck thinking that he might be able to get her to turn against Teslar and Clue. But as soon as the suit goes back on, it's pretty much back to business as usual, and becomes much harder for Beck to connect with her. I'm only realizing this now while writing, but this is basically the same dynamic as Sly Cooper and Carmelita Fox.
Hey, Inspector Fox. Still looking for a date to the prom?
Where he's overly flirty but has actual feelings for her, while she absolutely hates him until the one thing that keeps them apart goes away. So this show might be triggering something in my nostalgia brain for that, but Paige is such a cool character and a great addition to the show.
We are agreeing to a truce?
A temporary truce.
This truce is only temporary.
And then there's Pavel. Okay, I called Teslar mustache twirling, but this guy is the slimiest sleazeball in this show, and he's so much fun to watch. Fire! He puts on the front of being a militaristic mind that's extremely loyal to the cause, but in actuality, he's just a maniacal scumbag that knows he's the villain in the story, and has as much fun as possible being the villain.
You can leave now, or stick around for the fireworks.
I love fireworks! Poor vulnerable me! I just unlocked the door and your discs, and now I'm standing here defenseless. Please, don't try to escape. Mission to board, renegade! That's right, you're looking at him. The big cheese, the head honcho, king of the hill.
Do I look like I know what a JPEG is?
I honestly would call him the comic relief if he wasn't as genuinely skilled and manipulative as he is. He can tell that the Renegade is causing some shakeups in the power hierarchy, and actively puts on a face to build trust with Teslar, even though he's actively plotting against Teslar so he can be promoted and take his place.
Teslar's on his way out, and when he goes down, his most loyal soldiers are taking the plunge with him. But it doesn't have to be that way. Not for us.
There's also one more villain to the show named Dyson. He doesn't show up until about the halfway point in the series, but he's basically the guy who comes in to fix the problems in the city regarding the Renegade. The second he shows up, it's like the entire series has a switch that gets flipped. It goes from the section where the dominoes are all being set up to the section where they all start getting knocked down. He was once partners with Tron, but after a riot breaks out with the ISOs, he turns his back on Tron to side with Clue and help build the dictatorship. He He's cocky, but he's extremely organized, and I'd almost call him actually evil. He develops a way to force programs to be subservient by rewriting parts of their code in a process called repurposing. I love that name. It legitimately fills you with a sense of dread at the thought of changing your entire purpose for living. If you don't understand how it works, here's an explanation through the medium of a Team Fortress 2 meme. I want to talk about him more, but really, this video is meant to try to get you guys to watch the show, so I'm gonna hold off on giving the rest of the details about him.
If you can't keep your workers in line, do your best to remember you are just as replaceable as they are.
Oh, fuck. I can't believe you've done this.
A large driving force of the show are Beck's friends and colleagues, Mara, Zed, and Abel. Zed is probably the weakest character in the show overall, but he's still a fun character to watch. He's the kinda nerdy best friend with a crush on the main girl in the group and keeps trying to show off that he's cooler than he actually is. He's the kind of guy who will unironically fall for a catfish at the bar that's way too good to be true. His story over the course of the show is a huge aspect that drives the characters forward. After the death of Bodhi, and with Beck training to become the next Tron, Zed constantly gets all of the extra work in the garage dumped on him, and he harbors a hatred for the Renegade for causing Tesla to crack down even harder on their relatively peaceful lives. Zed is actually the main reason I'm willing to give the show a pass for kinda backloading the better quality episodes. The series starts out almost a monster of the week. Like, if you miss an episode, it's not gonna matter all too much to the overall narrative. But when it gets later in the show, the constant hell that Zed is put through causes him to snap at Beck, who keeps slacking off from work.
Should I be worried that you're talking to your bike?
Can you blame me? Going a little stir-crazy from pulling all these double shifts. Because someone's never here.
Even though we as an audience and Beck both know that he's out doing hero work, Zed is unaware, and just thinks that Beck is out drinking his problems away after the death of Bodhi, and starts to absolutely despise Beck for never being around when they need him. And you can tell just how much it pains Beck not to be able to say anything, because all he'd be doing is putting Zed at risk.
Glide with your arms and legs out and land with your feet moving.
I got it. I've used a wing chute before.
No, you haven't.
Okay, but I've seen it done. How hard can it be?
Mara is the backbone to a lot of the B-plots of the show. Beck's heroics are meant to inspire hope so that other people will follow and start to rise up. But one of the first people to jump at the chance to work alongside him is one of his closest friends, and he doesn't want to see her get caught in the crossfire. It leads to a lot of questions on if what Beck's doing is even worth it, because he's ending up putting innocent lives at risk. And while that is something to think about just in general, it hits hard when it's a close friend. The characters may be living in a dictatorship, but Argonne is one of the lesser controlled areas of the system, and they technically could just continue to live out their lives if they spent a good amount of time every day kissing Tesla's ass. Mara's personality is also a lot of fun. She's the most upbeat and positive character in the show, and when the series gets pretty dark and heavy, she's either a nice bit of needed levity in brutal situations, or a big moment when she breaks down, because it's a rare occasion when she does. It's never expressly stated or even really hinted at, but I think there is a slight chance she might know that Beck is the Renegade, but it's never confirmed.
No matter the risks, I'm ready for this.
I'm not.
Be gone, fuck!
There is one character that's confirmed to know that Beck is the Renegade outside of Tron, and that's Abel. Abel owns the garage where Zed, Mara, and Beck work. He's less of a boss and more of a father figure to the characters. Because they're all computer programs, they don't exactly have homes. Their work is their home, and their friends and coworkers are basically their families. And Abel's able to notice that Beck is the Renegade almost immediately, but doesn't fully confront him on this until later in the series. But once he does, it's revealed that he has a lot more connections to Tron than Beck originally thought. I really love the scene where Abel confronts Beck on being the Renegade. Beck believes that he's about to be fired after being called into the office, but as the tensions rise, Abel doesn't come at Beck with accusations and comes forward to Beck with a more understanding tone while asking him to be more honest about the situation.
It's okay, Beck. I know.
How long have you known?
Too long.
Abel is the one supplying Tron with the things he needs to survive, and Tron and Abel constantly butt heads over whether training a grieving young mechanic to take on Kludolf Hitler on his own is really a good idea. Abel actually has a lot of stuff from the original movie, like the original light cycle and a lone bit. Little details like that go a long way. Oh yeah, Yuri's dead, by the way. Despite looking like he smells old, he's definitely more than capable when he needs to defend himself. Over time, he realized that the situations around him are bigger than him, Beck, and even Tron. And even though he wants to, he can't just get Beck to stop being the renegade and put him back to work fixing up light cycles, so he actively starts to help Beck and Tron.
Don't get any ideas. I'm leaving Link here to watch the garage.
There are a few other characters in the show, like Cutler and Cyrus, but they serve more as characters to fulfill their own individual smaller stories within the show, rather than the overarching narrative.
This back and forth, like we're of one mind. I really can't wait to show you what I've been working on.
Halloween in January.
Okay, you know what? Forget that. We're talking about Cyrus. The original plan was to gloss over him to keep some fun aspects of the show more hidden in case people end up watching the show on their own after this video. But that was before I found out that Cyrus is voiced by Aaron Paul. Midway through...
Yeah, bitch!
But before...
Hooray! Responsibility!
Cyrus is a bit of a surprise villain late in the show. He's alluded to multiple times and even shown off in a flashback where he saves Tron while being delivered to his public execution, but he's nowhere to be found in present day until Beck accidentally finds him. Cyrus was trained to be the first renegade, but his overly malicious actions caused a rift between him and Tron. Despite how much I like this show, I really hate how Beck stumbles across Cyrus. Beck is stuck in traffic and decides to go off-road to avoid it, and then just gets drawn to this random pool of water that just so happens to have Cyrus in it.
Hey, you're going to Brazil!
Cyrus is a masterful manipulator. He's always 2 steps ahead of his opponent and is able to get his enemies to do what he wants rather than putting in the work himself.
It's how he beats you. He tricks you into doing one thing when it's really about another. Cyrus never even had to lift a finger. He let you hand deliver the bomb straight to his target.
How'd I get that package? Why would I deliver a bomb?
And he knows exactly when and where to plant the seeds of doubt in order to tear relationships apart. If it weren't for Abel being such a great father figure to Beck, Beck would have ended up leaving Tron and his life of being a renegade behind.
Just want to talk to you.
No, I'm not doing what you want anymore. Okay, asshole?
This is just a heads up to let you know I'm coming for you.
I feel like going in depth into every episode is only going to rob people of how cool the show is if they decide to fully watch it after this video. But I need to go into this one episode because I find it so cool. If you're a super fan of Invader Zim, you're probably going to enjoy this. Invader Zim's second season had a troubled development, with Nickelodeon pulling the plug on the show and forcing the team to pick and choose which episodes they wanted to focus on. And there's one episode that lives on in infamy because it was scripted but never fully made, entitled 10 Minutes to Doom, where Zim loses his backpack and it starts a countdown timer in the corner of the screen like it's goddamn 24 until Zim dies. Since the script was released to the public, fan-made versions of the episode do exist, which is what's on screen now, and I'll link them in the description. And this show has an episode that I have to assume is taking direct inspiration from that. After trying to avoid some of Clue's checkpoints because Beck doesn't want his disc checked, this random guy steals Beck's data disc and sells it on the black market, and it causes Tron to risk his own life guiding Beck through the streets to get it back. I love this episode because you can really feel the desperation of the encroaching time limit until Beck loses everything about himself and becomes a husk.
What's going on? Where am I?
They kind of get dark with this one, as Beck constantly blacks out and the animation gets really trippy anytime we see something from Beck's perspective until he gets the disc back.
Snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity.
I've been really positive throughout this video, so I think it's time we change gears a bit and address the biggest problem with the show, and that's the cliffhanger ending and the events of Tron Legacy. Clue, despite not really showing up in this series, is the main villain of Tron Legacy. He has a group of sidekicks who give the main characters a lot of trouble. His most able and trusted sidekick is this growling masked figure named Rinsler. and it's revealed later in the movie that Rinsler is actually Tron, after being repurposed to be subservient to Clue in every way.
Tron, what have you become?
Tron is dying throughout the show, and his condition continues to get worse as the series goes on. But after revealing the fact that he's still alive to Dyson, Tron is offered to be healed and given a position of power if he joins Clue. Beck and Tron make a plan to have Tron surrender, and have Beck save him in the brief window between being healed and being repurposed. And they're successful!
It's me. I'm okay.
But because Tron Legacy has shown us that Tron will eventually become Rinsler, we don't know if Tron is actually okay, or if he's just pretending so he can later betray Beck. And this never gets a resolution. It's like if the Star Wars prequels ended with Anakin avoiding becoming Darth Vader, and then just never providing an explanation for the original trilogy. That's legitimately what this feels like. And it gets even worse because the show ends on a cliffhanger, with the uprising truly beginning as the other programs are ready to fight alongside Tron and Beck, and Clue is on his way to the city. But unfortunately, due to the fact that the show is over and the events of Tron Legacy exist, the only assumption that can be made is that they all fail and die. Disney approved this. I really hate this ending. If I had the ability to change it, I would legitimately have Beck fail at saving Tron and show the birth of Rinsler instead of just implying it, and then have a potential season 2 filter into the events of Tron Legacy. But as it stands, this is all we've got, and it really sucks. I can fully understand why a lot of people are still begging for a season 2 over 10 years later.
I want some more.
What?
I will be honest and give a bit of a spoiler for my eventual video on Tron Legacy, but I'm very back and forth on it. There are aspects that I like and aspects I despise, and it's unfortunately one of the many reasons I'm not really excited for the new Tron movie that's coming out. But this show is the thing that gives me faith that the new movie might have a chance at being good. Tron Uprising might not have all the aspects I like from the original Tron. The programmer humor is really toned down, and the interesting idea of combining religion with computing isn't here. But to be fair, the show is marketed towards a bit of a younger audience, so I can understand why they didn't include it. But despite that, I really think it kept in the important things that made the original Tron work, and the things that Legacy did really well, while also having its own qualities. As much as I love the original Tron, I can't say that the movie has the deepest characters. I tried to make you think they were super deep in my original video, but looking back, I was stretching a bit with some of the things I said. But with this show, I think each of the characters brings a unique flair that all bounce off of each other really well, and I desperately wish this show got a season 2. At the beginning, I talked about how the show flopped because it was stuck on a premium network and premiering right next to one of Disney's most popular shows of all time. But I'm at least glad that Disney isn't just cutting their losses with this franchise. The Tron roller coaster at the Disney theme parks around the world, and the new movie that's in production, shows that while it might not be as much of a mainstream powerhouse as some of its other properties, Disney still has faith in it. I think it still has a lot of untapped potential if they're willing to expand upon the beats of the first movie and modernize some of the ideas, especially with the expansion of the internet, artificial intelligence, and just how tech-focused our entire society has become. But if they're not willing to go that deep with it, and considering Ralph Breaks the Internet exists, I don't really have high hopes, I'm at least hopeful that they're willing to do what they did with this show and give us likable characters to get invested in this really cool world. If they can do that, I'll be happy. Shit, Jared Leto's starring in the new movie. Fuck.